Have you ever lain beside someone you love and still felt utterly alone? That quiet ache in your chest isn't weakness, it's a message. And today, we're going to listen to it. I want to start with a truth that feels heavy but holy. You can be in a relationship and still feel deeply, painfully lonely. And when that loneliness shows up, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means something inside you is asking to be seen, heard, held. Emotional loneliness isn't about empty rooms, it's about empty connections. It's the silence after you share something vulnerable and get nothing back. It's the moment you realize you've been shrinking your needs so your love won't feel like a burden. Here's what I know for sure. Loneliness in a relationship grows where honesty goes quiet. It grows when we trade real conversations for polite ones, when we choose peace over truth, when we tell ourselves it's not that bad, while our hearts are whispering it is. And those whispers, left unattended, turn into screams. I've sat with countless people who say, I'm not asking for much. I just want to feel chosen. I want to feel known. And every time I hear that, I think this isn't neediness. This is humanity. This is the raw, courageous longing to belong to someone who belongs to you. So if you're listening right now and your chest feels tight, if your eyes sting, because this sounds like your life, I want you to hear me clearly. You are not alone in your loneliness. And you are not too much for wanting more connection, more warmth, more truth. This journey isn't about blaming your partner or shaming yourself. It's about understanding what your loneliness is teaching you and learning how to heal it bravely and tenderly from the inside out. Let's slow this down and name what's really happening. Because healing doesn't start with fixing. It starts with telling the truth. Emotional loneliness is that hollow feeling when you're sharing a life with someone, but not sharing your inner world. It's when your body is present, your calendar is full, your relationship looks fine from the outside, but inside you feel invisible. And I need you to know this emotional loneliness is not the same as being alone. You can be surrounded by people and still feel abandoned. You can be loved in actions, but starved in understanding. You can be committed to someone who doesn't know how to meet you emotionally, and that hurts in a way that doesn't leave bruises, but leaves scars. Most of us were never taught how to talk about this kind of pain. So instead, we minimize it. We say, other people have it worse. We say, at least they don't cheat. We say, maybe I'm just too sensitive. And every time we say those things, we betray our own emotional truth. We gaslight our own hearts. Here's the brave question: when was the last time you felt truly seen by your partner? Not tolerated, not managed, not handled. Sin. When was the last time you shared a fear, a dream, a wound, and felt your partner lean in instead of pulling away? If your answer is, I don't remember, that doesn't mean your relationship is doomed. It means your relationship is speaking to you. Loneliness is not your enemy. It's your messenger. It's pointing to an unmet need. It's telling you that something precious inside you is longing for connection, safety, and emotional intimacy. And I want you to hear this with your whole heart. Your need for emotional closeness is not a flaw. It is not drama. It is not weakness. It is your nervous system asking for attunement. It is your soul asking for partnership, not just proximity. So don't rush to fix it yet. First, honor it. Sit with the ache. Name it. Write it down. Say it out loud in a whisper if you have to. I feel lonely in my relationship. That sentence is not a betrayal. It's a beginning. Here's the quiet tragedy of emotional loneliness. It rarely arrives in one loud, obvious moment. It creeps in slowly, softly. It sneaks into the spaces where we stopped asking real questions and started giving routine answers. It settles into the nights when we scroll instead of talk, when we're exhausted but not connected, when we say, I'm fine, because it feels easier than saying, I'm hurting. We don't wake up one day emotionally distant. We drift. We drift because life gets heavy, because work is relentless, because stress hijacks our nervous systems, because old wounds get triggered, and instead of leaning toward each other, we armor up. We protect ourselves. We go into survival mode. And survival mode is about efficiency, not intimacy. So we start managing each other instead of meeting each other. We talk about bills, kids, schedules, chores, and logistics. We become co-workers in the business of life instead of lovers in the business of the heart. And nothing is technically wrong, but something is painfully missing. Sometimes the drift happens because one of you learned early in life that vulnerability is dangerous, that needing people leads to disappointment, that feelings are a burden. So when your partner reaches for you emotionally, your body panics, you shut down, you deflect, you joke, you change the subject. Not because you don't care, but because you're terrified of getting it wrong. And sometimes the drift happens because you've reached out so many times and felt rejected so many times that you finally stopped trying. You told yourself, why bother? You swallowed your needs. You lowered your expectations. You convinced yourself that numb is better than hurt. And in doing that, you didn't just lose connection with your partner, you lost connection with yourself. This is what I want you to understand. Emotional distance is not a moral failure. It's a nervous system response. It's a protection strategy. It's what happens when two people who love each other don't know how to stay emotionally safe together. So if you're feeling far apart right now, don't jump to blame. Get curious. Ask, where did we start choosing comfort over courage? Where did we stop turning toward each other? Because every drift has a story. And every story, when told honestly, holds the first thread of healing. When emotional loneliness sets in, we don't just feel pain. We start building stories around that pain. Quiet, dangerous stories. Stories like, I'm not important to them. I'm too much. They don't care the way I care. If I were more lovable, this wouldn't be happening. And those stories don't just hurt our relationship, they erode our self-worth. Here's the hard truth. When you don't feel emotionally met, your brain will go looking for meaning. And if you don't give it a compassionate, grounded explanation, it will give you a cruel one. It will turn your loneliness into a verdict about your value. It will make your partner's limitations feel like proof that you are unlovable. And that is a lie that can wreck a heart. Most of the time, your partner's emotional distance is not a measure of your worth. It's a measure of their capacity. It's a measure of what they learned or didn't learn about emotions, communication, and vulnerability. Some people grew up in homes where feelings were mocked, minimized, or punished. Some people survived chaos by going numb. Some people never saw what emotional intimacy looks like, so they don't know how to offer it. But when you're lonely, your nervous system doesn't care about their backstory. It just knows it's hurting. So you start shrinking yourself. You stop asking for what you need. You say, it's okay, when it's not. You pretend you don't care about things that matter deeply to you. And every time you do that, you abandon yourself a little more. I want to say this clearly because it might be the most important thing you hear today. Your feelings are not the problem. Your longing for connection is not the problem. Your vulnerability is not the problem. The problem is silence. The problem is the story that says, if I just need less, everything will be okay. Needing less will not heal your loneliness. Speaking more truth will. Your pain is not an inconvenience. It's a compass. It's pointing you toward the conversations you've been avoiding and the parts of yourself you've been betraying. And the moment you stop making your loneliness mean something terrible about you, that's the moment your power starts coming back. This is where healing starts to feel terrifying. Not because you don't know what's wrong, but because you do. You know you're lonely. You know you're disconnected. And you know the next step isn't fixing your partner, it's risking your heart. There is a specific kind of bravery required to look at someone you love and say, I miss you, even when you're sitting right next to me. That sentence carries so much vulnerability. It says, I still want you. It says, I still believe in us. It says, I'm hurting and I'm choosing honesty instead of silence. Most people don't have that conversation. Not because they don't care, but because they're afraid of what it might confirm. They're afraid their partner will get defensive. They're afraid they'll be told they're too needy. They're afraid nothing will change, and then the hope they've been clinging to will finally die. So instead, they protest in quieter ways. They get sarcastic. They withdraw. They start fights about dishes and text messages and tone of voice, when what they're really fighting about is, do I matter to you emotionally? They test their partner instead of telling their partner. And tests always fail because they're built on unspoken rules. Here's the truth connection doesn't come from perfect communication. It comes from brave communication. It comes from choosing real over polite. It comes from saying, I'm lonely in our relationship and I don't want to be, not as an accusation, not as a threat, but as an invitation. And yes, your voice might shake, and yes, you might cry, and yes, your partner might not respond the way you hope in that moment. But every time you tell the truth about your inner world, you take one step out of emotional isolation. You stop suffering alone. This is what I want you to remember. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's the doorway to intimacy. You cannot heal emotional loneliness without walking through that door. And walking through it will feel like standing naked in a storm. But on the other side of that storm is the only thing that can actually heal you, real connection, built on real truth, spoken by a real, courageous you. This is the moment nobody prepares you for. You finally gather the courage to speak your truth. You finally say, I feel lonely in our relationship. And instead of tenderness, you're met with confusion or defensiveness or silence or worse, dismissal. And that moment can break something open inside you. Because here's what hurts the most, not just feeling lonely, but feeling lonely after you tried. Feeling lonely after you were brave. Feeling lonely after you reached out with your bare hands and your open heart. If this has happened to you, I want you to breathe with me for a second, because your pain does not mean you did the wrong thing. It means you touched a place your partner doesn't yet know how to go. It means you invited them into emotional depth they might be terrified of. It means you showed up with courage, and they showed up with their limitations. We tend to make this moment mean something catastrophic. We think, this will never change. They don't care. I should never have said anything. And those thoughts slam the door shut on hope. But the truth is more complex and more compassionate than that. Some people respond defensively because they hear your loneliness as an accusation instead of an invitation. Some people shut down because shame floods their system and they don't know how to regulate it. Some people minimize because acknowledging your pain would force them to face their own emotional inadequacy, and that's terrifying. None of that makes your loneliness okay. None of that excuses emotional neglect. But it does explain why healing is not a one conversation miracle. It's a process. It's repetition. It's patience. It's learning a new emotional language together. And here's the part that matters most. Your job is not to convince your partner that your feelings are valid. Your job is to honor your feelings as valid, even if they don't yet know how to. Your job is to stay in integrity with your truth. If your vulnerability was met with coldness, don't retreat into silence. That teaches your nervous system that honesty is dangerous. Instead, ground yourself. Remind yourself, I did something brave. I did something honest. I did something loving. And then decide your next step from self-respect, not despair. Because healing doesn't start when your partner gets it right. It starts when you refuse to abandon yourself, no matter how someone else responds. And here's the shift that changes everything. Healing emotional loneliness is not about winning an argument. It's about building emotional safety. Because no one opens their heart in a room that feels like a courtroom. Emotional safety means this: I can tell you the truth about how I feel without being punished for it. I can be messy, I can be vulnerable. And you won't mock me, minimize me, or use my feelings against me later. Without that safety, intimacy cannot survive. It suffocates. So if you and your partner are serious about healing this loneliness, the work isn't just talking more. It's talking differently. It's slowing down conversations instead of escalating them. It's replacing "you never" with "I feel." It's learning how to listen without interrupting. Fixing or defending, it's letting silence exist without filling it with sarcasm or withdrawal. And let me be honest with you, this is not natural for most of us. We were raised to argue, not to attune. We were taught to win, not to witness. So when your partner shares pain, your instinct might be to correct their memory, justify your behavior, or explain your intentions. But none of that heals loneliness. What heals loneliness is this sentence: "I hear you." That makes sense. "I'm here." That sentence is oxygen for a lonely heart. Emotional safety is built in tiny, unglamorous moments. It's built when you put your phone down and make eye contact. It's built when you ask, "Tell me more," instead of "That's not what I meant." It's built when you apologize without excuses. It's built when you choose curiosity over control. And here's the brave truth: sometimes you will be the one doing more of this work at first. You will be the one modeling vulnerability. You will be the one softening instead of hardening. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you a leader in emotional intimacy. But leadership doesn't mean self-erasure. If your partner consistently refuses to create safety with you, that matters deeply. You deserve a relationship where your inner world is not treated like an inconvenience. Healing loneliness is not about grand gestures. It's about daily emotional discipline. It's about choosing each other again and again, not just in bodies and routines, but in hearts and conversations. And when safety begins to grow, even slowly, something miraculous happens. The loneliness starts to loosen its grip. Here is a truth that feels both painful and empowering. Sometimes your relationship cannot meet you emotionally yet. Sometimes your partner is trying, but they're limited. Sometimes they're not trying at all. And in those moments, your healing cannot be put on hold waiting for someone else to change. This is where self-abandonment either deepens or self-connection begins. When you're lonely in a relationship, it's easy to pour all your energy into fixing them, understanding them, accommodating them, waiting for them to wake up emotionally. And in doing that, you quietly disappear from your own life. You stop tending to your own needs. You stop nurturing your own joy. You stop building a support system outside of your partner. You shrink your world down to the size of someone else's emotional capacity. And that is a slow, invisible kind of heartbreak. I want you to hear this with your whole nervous system. Your partner is not allowed to be the only place your emotional life lives. You are allowed? No, you are required to build connection, meaning, and safety beyond this one relationship. That is not betrayal. That is resilience. This means reaching out to friends who really see you. It means finding a therapist, a coach, a support group, someone whose job is to hold your emotional truth without minimizing it. It means journaling your grief instead of stuffing it down. It means moving your body, creating art, praying, crying in the shower, screaming in your car, whatever helps your feelings move instead of rot. And it also means learning how to give yourself the tenderness you've been begging your partner to give you. Putting your hand on your own chest and saying, "I see how lonely you are. I'm here with you." Speaking to yourself with the compassion you deserve. Making choices that honor your energy instead of draining it. This is not giving up on your relationship. This is refusing to die emotionally while waiting for it to get better. Because here's the paradox. When you stop making your partner the only source of your emotional oxygen, you show up less desperate, less resentful, less collapsed. You show up grounded, whole, alive. And from that place, you can see your relationship more clearly, whether it has the capacity to grow with you or whether your healing is quietly preparing you for a braver, truer next chapter. By this point, you've done a lot of work. You've named your loneliness, spoken your truth, tried to create emotional safety, and tended to yourself when the relationship couldn't hold you. And now comes the hardest, yet most freeing truth connection is a choice every day. By both people. It is not automatic, even when love exists. Emotional intimacy is not a given, it is cultivated. And sometimes, despite your bravery and vulnerability, your partner may not be able or willing to meet you where you need them. That does not make your love invalid. It does not make your longing excessive. It simply makes reality undeniable. And acknowledging reality is not defeat, it is clarity. This is the point where courage and discernment meet. You ask yourself, am I in a partnership where emotional connection can flourish? Am I with someone who is willing to meet me halfway, to learn, to try, to show up? If the answer is yes, then you continue to lead with vulnerability, to practice patience, to hold space for both yourself and them. Growth will take time, but it can happen. If the answer is no, then your loneliness is not a problem to be fixed by enduring more. It is a signal that you need to make hard, loving choices for yourself. You may need to step back, set boundaries, or even walk away. And doing so does not mean you failed. It means you are honoring the sacred truth of your own emotional life. Here's the tender, paradoxical beauty of this. Whether your partner rises to the occasion or not, your willingness to face loneliness, speak your truth, and nurture yourself plants the seeds of connection, either within the relationship or within the next chapter of your life. Emotional loneliness is painful. Yes, but it is also a guide. It is asking you, who are you willing to be in your own heart? How much will you choose yourself? And when you answer those questions courageously, something shifts. You start living in a relationship, not just alongside someone, but with your full, alive, open heart. Here is the gift hidden inside loneliness. It teaches you to belong to yourself first. All the ache, all the quiet longing, all the nights of staring at the ceiling wondering if anyone sees you, those moments are pointing to a truth that cannot be ignored. You are the first home your heart must learn to inhabit. You are the first person who must witness your own pain, your own beauty, your own longing. Healing emotional loneliness is not about changing your partner. It's about changing how you hold yourself in the spaces where connection is missing. It's about learning to say, I see you and I am here for me, even when the world or your relationship cannot give you that. It's about nurturing the parts of you that were starved for attention, tenderness, and understanding. And when you do this, everything shifts, your presence becomes fuller, your expectations become clearer, and your love becomes stronger, not desperate, not codependent, not fearful, but courageous, alive, and grounded. The truth is, you can be in a relationship and feel complete. You can feel seen, heard, and known even imperfectly when you refuse to abandon yourself. Loneliness stops being a sentence and becomes a teacher. It teaches you boundaries. It teaches you bravery. It teaches you bravery. It teaches you how to choose connection without losing yourself. And here's the ultimate revelation. When you cultivate emotional wholeness inside yourself, you no longer chase connection. You attract it. Not through manipulation, not through neediness, but through authenticity, honesty, and deep, unwavering presence. You become magnetic not because you're perfect, but because you are fully human. So if you've been lonely in a relationship, I want you to carry this forward. Your heart is not broken. Your longing is not a flaw. Your vulnerability is not a weakness. And your courage, the courage to see yourself, to name your loneliness, and to choose connection anyway, is the greatest act of love you will ever perform. You are enough. You always have been. And now you are ready to be wholly seen, first by yourself and then by the world.